Urban homesteading with poultry is a great way to get yourself some fresh eggs, meat, as well as fertilizer for your garden. But if you're thinking between whether you should get chicken or quail, because they're both going to lay some really great tasting eggs with high amounts of nutrients to help save you on some of the hefty prices that they have at the grocery store right now, I think a dozen eggs was last talked about being $12 in my area for a nice organic dozen chicken eggs, which is insane. Now, I'm not saying raising chickens is that much cheaper, but at least when you raise chickens or quail or any of your own type of poultry, you know exactly what you're feeding your animals, and you know the lifestyle of your animal, and you know directly where your food is coming from. So anything like the aviary flus that are coming everywhere now will hopefully not be affecting your flock, and you're going to be able to regulate and kind of understand what your flock is looking like and the health of the egg that you're putting in your body. But let's actually talk about quail versus chickens and which one is going to be best for your urban homestead. So depending on the amount of space and the pros and cons that you hear from this list, you're going to be able to decide which one you want to add. Or maybe you want to add both. We have both of them at our homestead, and we've been raising them for years now, so I have a wealth of knowledge that I'd love to share with you to help you make the decision a lot easier. And the first one, which is probably one of the easiest ways to help make your decision, is going to be the space requirement. Now, I'm actually standing in front of my chicken coop right here. We just built it. This is our old coop, which was essentially just an old barn stall from a barn that we had at our property, and we just fixed it up. We made it more predator proof, and we were able to add our chickens in there, as well as some of the other animals that we raise here on our homestead, like rabbits, our quail, and hopefully some more coming soon. We've done turkey, we have guinea fowl, and we are planning to get more, so definitely stay tuned. But let's talk about the space that you need for chickens. So you really want around 4 square feet per chicken on the inside of the coop, and on the exterior, the run that you have for your chickens, you want around 8 to 10 square feet for the exterior run. This is going to be for the best environment for your chickens. We actually let our chickens free range for most of the year, and we only put them in their outdoor run during the really cold months when there's a lot more predators looking for some fresh meat that they otherwise wouldn't be able to find in the winter, but they have more of during the summer, and we don't really have as many predators in the summer, so we can let them free range a lot more. In comparison, when you're raising quail, you don't need as much of a space. They're a much smaller bird, and they naturally are going to bounce when they see a predator or they hear something. So you want to make sure that you're not getting too high of a cage. This way, if they do bounce, they're not going to break a neck or hurt themselves. Or you could do an aviary type style where it's much higher, and that way they're just not going to reach the top if they do jump. But we're talking about how to have the best space and work with what you have. And if you're in an urban homesteading, then you might not have that amount of space. So quail are going to clearly win here because you can do much smaller cages, you can stack them, and you can just fit a lot more quail per square foot because they are a smaller bird. That being said, they also are going to produce a much smaller egg. Their eggs are about this tiny, and a chicken egg is about that tiny. So you will need around 3 to 4 quail eggs in order to equal 1 chicken egg. But as long as you are allowing both your chicken and quail to see the sun, they can be outside, then you are going to allow them to have some vitamin D from the sun. And if you are able to let them peck at different bugs or have bugs enter into their cages, then that's going to help add some additional nutrients that they wouldn't otherwise get from their feed. Now, here at our homestead, we do feed both our quail and our chickens Nature Serve feed, which we absolutely love. It is packed with all the nutrients that your game fowl as well as chickens need in order to get them started. When they're starting out, they're just chicks, as well as while they're laying their own eggs. And both our quail and chickens really love this feed, so I definitely suggest it. Let's talk egg production. Now, chickens are going to start laying eggs much later in their lives, around months 5 to 6. We love getting our chickens in the fall or winter months so that by the spring and summer, they're actually starting to lay eggs, which is a little bit of a hack. And once they do start laying eggs, they're gonna lay anywhere from 4 to 6 eggs per week, your normal egg size. As they get older, usually the eggs will get a little bit bigger, and you will notice that the amount of eggs that they lay per week is really dependent on the breed. So if you do want to have a high egg production, then I definitely suggest getting an egg laying bird. I'll add some of my favorite types of egg laying breeds here so that you can start to think about what's going to be best for you. I also suggest looking at breeds that are going to be best for your area and the temperatures that you have. Whereas quail are going to start much earlier, anywhere from 6 to 8 weeks they'll start laying eggs, and they're going to lay around 1 egg per day. So they're going to be really prolific in egg laying, but the size of the eggs are really different. Quail eggs are much smaller, as I said, where a chicken egg is much larger, and the ratio is around 3 to 4 quail eggs to 1 chicken egg. So I'm going to say that there's a pretty big tie in which one to get if you are looking to get an egg production. They're pretty similar. Let's talk about noise. Now, chickens are pretty quiet if they're at hen. You might be able to hear some of my hens in here. We don't actually have any rooster because we just don't really want roosters. We've had them before and we just don't really need them for the setup that we have. If you are allowed to get roosters in the area that you raise your chickens, some towns will prohibit them. They will be a lot louder, and you'll notice that on a daily basis. They do their little cock-a-doodle-doo, and they can do it oftentimes throughout the day. So they are going to be a lot louder than, say, a quail. Now, female and male quails do make noises. The male noise is much louder, similar to a rooster in chickens, but again, neither of them are that loud. We actually have a recording of what quail noises are. But it's not that loud, and I do think that it's pretty similar to other birds that generally are just making noise out in the area. So if you're looking to secretly have quail or chickens, or just not do it in a disturbing way for your neighbor, then I definitely suggest getting quail. They're just a lot quieter, and neighbors don't really notice the sounds of quail as they do for chickens, especially your roosters. Next thing to think about is the actual long-term maintenance of your poultry. Chickens and quail both are going to require regular cleaning out of their coops or homes that you have them in. Although because chickens just require much larger space, it is going to require a little more work because you are going to need to go in there more often. Now, both of them are going to be able to create fertilizer for your garden or compost for your garden. You are going to need to have a cool off period, especially for chicken manure that you're kind of getting from them. So you can use both of them for your garden, but you're going to need to have a cool off period where you can compost it first. You won't want to put it directly into your garden. I've noticed that they both can have a smell to them. Neither of them are that great, but really the clear winner here is quail because they just don't take up that much space. So cleaning them out and maintaining their area and maintaining it so that it doesn't have a smell, it's going to be much easier to maintain for quail. Now let's talk about diet. I mentioned earlier that we feed both our chickens and our quail nature serve. They have a game bird feed as well as a chicken feed. The major difference between your chicken and quail are going to actually need a higher protein diet than your chicken. So you're going to want to make sure that you get them a food that is optimal for their high protein needs. Whereas chickens can have a normal chicken feed, they can also forage a lot more, especially if you have free range chickens. This is going to be great for foraging, and it's going to require less of a cost for feed because they can forage for a lot of their own food, which will supplement the cost of your feed. It's also possible to grow your own fruits, vegetables, and plants, which your chicken can eat. We've actually lined our coop right against our garden here. So whenever we do have garden scraps, we will throw them into our chicken coop area, especially our outdoor run. So the chickens will go ahead and eat those. And this is a great way to save costs on feed and be able to feed your chickens a good, well-balanced, nutrient-dense diet. Outside of egg production, a really great way to source your own meat is by raising your own quail and chickens. This way you know exactly what they're eating and you're able to provide them a great lifestyle before you go ahead and get your meat ready. Now, Quail are going to be really quick to age. Around 6 to 8 weeks, you can actually start to harvest quail, and they're very easy to harvest. If you just go ahead and do a YouTube search, there are some really great videos, and all you need is a pair of scissors. Now, if you are looking for harvesting chickens, chickens can take a little bit longer, and you will want to make sure that you're getting the right type of chickens. So you want to get a meat bird or a hybrid type bird, and you do want to make sure that you are harvesting them at the right age so that they are the right tenderness that you would like to be eating them at. Now, I've found that they're a little bit harder to harvest. It takes a little bit longer, and it's going to require a lot more feed in order to get the size that you want. So for here, I do think that quail are a lot easier to harvest. It's going to be a lot quicker of a turnover, although because they are a smaller bird, chickens are a lot more, chickens are able to produce a lot more meat quicker. So really up to you, but they're probably unequal here because of that differentiator in the size. Okay, so let's talk about their lifespan and productivity. Now, quail is really going to only live around 1 to 2 years, but they are going to be producing around 1 egg that entire time. So after that 6 to 8 weeks, once they start to actually get their eggs, they're going to be producing 4 most of their life. Whereas chickens are going to live a lot longer, around 5 to 6 years, but after around 2 to 3 years, they're going to drop off in their egg production. So depending on what you're really looking for, they are a lot different there. And another thing to really think about before you get chickens and or quail is what the regulations are in your area. Every town, state, country has their own regulations around what animals you can raise in your own backyard. So you definitely want to look for regulations around that. Usually there aren't regulations around quail. They're usually a lot easier, and there isn't that much red tape around raising quail. Whereas chickens, especially roosters, are usually not able to be raised in certain areas. So definitely check with your town and the regulations that they have so that you know if you're able to even raise them. In the end, we love raising both quail and chicken. If I were going to start over, I would definitely start first with quail. They're much easier, smaller bird. They don't take up that much space, and you can really learn how to do everything in regards to raising, feeding, harvesting, and creating automated systems with your quail. And then move into chickens, where it's going to take up a lot more space, but they're just really fun, and they each have their own characteristics and personalities. And I think chickens are just a more fun bird than quail, but there are definitely pros and cons to each. Let me know if you're raising them, if you're thinking of raising them, and what some of your pros and cons are down below, and we'll see you guys again next time.